Thanks for tuning in. Spending some time with us right here on Cruisin' Oldies, 1040 AM, 98.5 FM. Going to get into our next segment here. I'm so happy to have this person here in the studios. Very interesting person, really a great guy, looking to help you. And we've got Bradford Pelton. He is an attorney at law here in Colorado Springs. And you can give him a call at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. Online, BradfordPeltonLaw.com. Always my pleasure to have you in the studios, Brad.
Morning, Paul. I'm sure glad to be here.
And it's a lot different than it was last Tuesday.
Oh, yes, sir. There was actually traffic on the road today.
Wow. Yeah. I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
You know, just for folks that might not have heard of you before or heard from you, maybe just a little bit of info about, your background. Not your first rodeo. You've been practicing law here in Colorado for some time, and what you specialize in.
37 years at 320 South Cascade. My first job and my last job. I've been there 37 years. My dad was my partner for the first 22, and we've always limited our practice to workers' compensation, personal injury, premises liability, dog bite type cases. In general, if you've been hurt at work or on the road, any place in between, you want to come talk to me, and I'll help you.
And it is absolutely free for folks to give you guys a call, get an assessment, know what their options are. You're here to help people, and I really can't overstate that fact that you are here to help people. You welcome people to call your office, talk with you, maybe somebody from your staff, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to be the one that they talk to, and so they're going to get some help, and that is what people are looking for.
They're looking for some help. They're looking for some guidance. They're looking for some advice, and I will provide all three to the best of our collective ability.
And all it takes is one phone call to 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828 for Bradford Pelton. And there again, I just, want to let people know, auto accidents, that's why they call them accidents. Nobody sets out and goes, I'm going to have it on purpose today. But they do happen all the time. It is what it is. Sometimes no big deal. Sometimes it is a big deal. But at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to, I'm trying to find the words for this, Brad, because you know where I'm going with this. I'm not trying to put anybody down here. I'm just saying that if people are, there's a lot of that advertisement out there, it's like, I'm not going to get $1 million. I'm not going to be a millionaire and retire and buy an island in the South Pacific or something like that. That's not what this is about. I was in an accident many years ago. All I wanted to do was get back my health and be whole again. And really, I think that's the best attitude people can have.
So much of the time, people come in to see me, and what they're thinking about is putting their lives back together as near as possible and as soon as possible. And that is the job. I had a client up from Pueblo yesterday, and I insisted that he bring his entire family.
Wow.
We call it a personal injury because it is personal.
Yeah.
And
it probably affects his whole family.
It certainly does. His daughters are thinking about dropping out of school so they can help feed the family.
Oh, my gosh.
He's got a 10-year-old son that clearly you can see the concern in his eyes.
Yeah.
This accident happened 2 years ago, and he and his wife are still together, and they are still committed to each other. You can tell when people care about each other.
Right.
And yes, there's some tough decisions that have to be made. If we go one way, it creates a situation on the other side. If we go the other way, it creates a situation on the other side.
Right.
People like to say there's no problem without a solution.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I know that there's no solution without a problem.
That's true, too.
So much of what we do is trying to balance those issues out,
right,
and make the best choice under some very unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah. Wow. And see, I'm glad that you brought that up, because there are a lot of people out there. And folks, if you're listening right now and you've had some situation occur like Brad was talking about 2 years ago, and you still haven't found a resolution for it, it's hard, and you start losing faith, and you start getting to that point where you go, nothing's ever going to happen, and I'm just screwed, basically. But it doesn't have to be, and that's why it's so important to find the right counsel, to find that person that not only has the expertise and the knowledge, but also cares about you, isn't looking at you as, how much can I get out of this?
My dad used to refer to us as family lawyers. And for the first few years of my career, I didn't really understand what he was talking about.
You're like, we don't practice family law. What, that's writing up wills and trusts and things, right?
Well, having Willie's family up from Pueblo yesterday reminded me again that we are indeed family lawyers. When a accident or a on-the-job injury occurs, it affects the entire family. And
it does.
It is important on a social level to have the entire family involved.
Yeah.
So I don't like to make any decisions without talking to my clients in person and with their families.
Okay. And it's absolutely free. If you're just tuning in, folks, we're talking with Bradford Pelton. He's an attorney here in Colorado Springs, and he is here to help you. All you have to do is give him a call at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828 is absolutely free. There's no obligation to talk with Brad about personal injury, something that's going on in your life that you're trying to be whole again. And that kind of goes right back to what we were talking about. You are so passionate about people getting that help, and that's the first and foremost, is getting your life back, getting healthy, being able to do the things that you want to do, having that quality of life, getting back to work, whatever the case may be. The rest of it, it's kind of academic if you don't have that.
Well, you certainly want your health back first.
Yeah.
The remainder, I don't want to say it takes care of itself. That would be a misrepresentation, but it certainly is indicative. A lovely word. It is indicative of where it's going to go.
Right.
But the longer it takes to find that right doctor, the longer it takes to find that right treatment. My emphasis in dealing with these issues is to hopefully match up the problem with the correct practitioner.
Well, and that's key right there, because as I said, when I was in that auto accident, our regular doctor was out of the loop, out of town, vacation, whatever. So there was another doctor that was seeing her patients, and so when we went in there, I mean, he just basically gave us the bum's rush. He was like, man, yeah, he kicked our tires, gave us a prescription, and said go away. There was other problems down the line. Now, I'm not faulting him. He just wasn't that concerned. He was busy. He was doing 2 patient loads, and so he really didn't care.
It isn't that they can't or don't care. It's just that they're busy.
And that's what I mean by he doesn't do. He was moving on to the next patient already, and he was like, and I don't know, Brad, maybe I was the 5th, 6th auto accident person that he'd seen that morning. I don't know. And so, but my point is that that's where you're kind of coming in also, is that you're going to make sure that if people aren't getting the proper care, or that they're not dealing with somebody that has the right expertise in that area, you're going to help them find that person so that they can get that care that they need.
Sometimes it's even about, especially in workers' comp, it's about getting that doctor who, frankly, is a workers' compensation doctor, to address the personal issues for the claimant, as opposed to serving that larger purpose that the workers' compensation system presses upon them.
Yeah, I think I'm following you on this one, yeah. And unfortunately, there is a lot of undue influences within society on different people and trades, if you will. It's just the way that it is. But there again, it kind of goes right to the point that person needs to take, and they need to kind of go slow. They need to pick out the right people to represent them. And first and foremost, as far as having that interview with attorneys and knowing that this person really does care, this person is going to take and represent me, I think, properly, and I'm going to be able to work with this person. That's that whole thing about finding that right attorney is probably first and foremost the most important thing a person can do.
I can't argue with that.
Okay. Well, and I was just thinking about, doing it by the numbers, basically, is what I am. Unfortunately, we have these people, and again, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but there's a lot of advertisements out there, and it talks all about the money. He got me $1 million, he got me $2 million. Well, whatever. You got to put these things into perspective. What's the most important thing? Having your health back, having your life back, having your quality of life. And reality is that we have to look at these and say, did those happen? Did those people get $2 million? Well, sure, they did. But was it the rule or was it the exception? I think it was the exception.
I would also suggest that when you learn the facts of those cases, that $2 million is not enough money.
And it probably isn't. And it could have taken, I don't even know how long to get there. And people have to understand, too, that in a lot of cases, they set this up as kind of like an annuity or something like that. They didn't become a millionaire. Maybe they're getting, $5,000 a month for the rest of their life for 80 years or something. I don't know how it was structured. But you're right. And my point about this whole thing is that, that is just crazy. You didn't win the lotto because you got rear-ended. And that's really my point.
It's not free money.
No.
It certainly is.
There's a cost to everything.
Oh, and the personal losses that those people have endured. They're not talking about that on TV. They're talking about the award, but they're certainly not talking about why that kind of money got paid.
Yeah. There had to have been something substantial going on.
It's not good news.
No. And, folks, here's the good news. You can give Brad a call today. Call his office at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828 for Bradford Pelton, attorney at law. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a whole lot more to help you. Stay right here. Cruisin' Oldies, 1040 AM, 98.5 FM. Pros on Call will be right back. Pros on Call, Paul Scheidler with you, 750 in the AM here on Cruisin' Oldies, 1040 AM, 98.5 FM. We've been here talking with Bradford Pelton. He is an attorney at law here in Colorado Springs. And, regardless of where you're at in Colorado, Brad can help you. Give him a call today, and it's absolutely free at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. 828 online, BradfordPeltonLaw.com. And, we've been talking a lot about the auto accidents and things like that. I do want to remind folks that you deal with the workers' comp, slip and falls, things like that. Really kind of personal injury really kind of revolves around, maybe you can kind of explain it, or revolves around something that happened to you that shouldn't have because of somebody else. I don't know how to put that.
Well, in law school, one of the first general subjects is a subject called torts, and a tort is a civil wrong. And I can tell you that I'm involved in a process that goes all the way back to the first writings that we're aware of, Sargon of Akkad and Hammurabi's Code. There, they were attempting to adjust losses between people, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Oh, okay, sure.
And a life for a life.
Right.
5,000 years later, we're talking about the value of an eye for an eye, the value of a tooth for a tooth, and the value of a life for a life.
Okay.
So it's a seamless line back to the first writings of civilization.
So bottom line is that we're still doing the same thing, except we've converted it into monetary.
That's correct.
Okay. So now, when we're talking about that, then, it's pretty it's pretty broad, and I'm not trying to throw that out there and tell people, hey, whatever happens to you someplace else, you could sue them and get money. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. But what I'm saying is that people do need to be aware that if something has impacted them through someone else's negligence, basically, then they do deserve to not have to be paying money for doctors and things like that out of their pockets, things like that. They deserve to be made whole.
Well, in today's world, there are several other, I like to refer to them as players on the periphery. Mm-hmm. Your healthcare provider or your healthcare carrier is going to want money that they spend on your behalf.
That's back. True too, yeah.
Medicaid, Medicare,
right.
The health carriers. Sometimes you have to make arrangements with the healthcare provider so that he takes the case on what we refer to as a lien.
Okay.
And all of those things have to be juggled appropriately.
Sure.
They certainly have to be identified, tracked, coordinated,
right,
so that nothing gets left out.
Right.
Because nobody wants to find out after the fact.
Well, no, you don't want to settle and stuff, and then next thing you know, 6 months down the line, somebody comes up and says, "Hey, you owe me $5,000." That's not a real good thing.
And it can be quite subtle.
Right. But that's that whole thing where people that represent themselves, and I'm just going to throw a warning out. I mean I know this for a fact. Representing yourself, personal injury, whether it's auto accident, workers' comp, or anything else like that. Wow, you are taking on something that you do not want to be involved with.
Well, it's sort of like stepping in the ring with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, you're right.
You might get lucky.
You might get a couple of blows in, but you're not going to knock him out.
Even a blind squirrel can find a nut, so you have to be careful with that. But the bottom line is the defense people do it all day, every day. It's all they do, and it's all they do all day, every day. So they know what they're doing.
Right.
And if you don't have the effective or appropriate representation, you don't know what they're doing.
And that is that whole key, and I'm glad that you put it that way, because that makes a ton of sense when you're thinking about it in that respect. You are ill prepared to go into battle with this. Definitely, you're taking a knife to a gunfight, if you will. And you're right. These folks, that's what their job is. They do this all day, and the reason that they have that job is because theoretically they are effective at what they do, which is to mitigate the exposure of the insurance company and minimize the amount that they pay out. And whatever they can do, they might act like they're your friend and that they're there to help you and get you well and things, but always it's about their employer. It's always about their company, right?
If a claim is justified, they will pay it. It is...
But it's a business.
An adversarial process, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And they certainly look at trying to minimize their exposure.
Right.
And so you want to have someone on the other side who knows how to justify that claim so that they have no alternative.
Right.
But to pay.
Right, because like I said, it comes down to business, and really what it comes down to is knowing the facts, being able to present those in such a way where the arguments are minimized, if you will, as far as being in that adversarial position, and that's where your law office comes in, you and your experience, and then your staff, and really taking everybody individually, because that is a big difference, that every case, every person is an individual, rather than it's just case number such and such. How much can I get out of this? Should we go ahead and just settle this now, get it off our desks and move on? Or is there something bigger down the pike? Those are the types of things that go on in the background people don't understand about. And there again, it comes down to business, right?
So much of the time, I have people come in to see me and they want to know, and it's a fair question. It actually is the ultimate question.
How much?
How much?
Yep.
And I want to be able to say, look, these are the reasons. We've done our investigation. We have put the work ahead of the money. And I now know how to go about approaching this company or this defendant and justifying your claim. I know what I know, and I also know what I don't know. I believe I told you my story about the plumbing and the garbage disposal. The water was clearly dripping off the garbage disposal. I spent 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out how to fix the garbage disposal when it was actually coming from a disconnected hose above the garbage disposal. The plumber came in and fixed it in about 2 minutes. So you got to know what you know, and you also got to know what you don't know. And when it comes to plumbing, I call my plumber. When you got a legal issue, as we've been talking about today, you want to talk to a lawyer who knows what he's doing. And I would suggest to you that that is me.
And folks, you know what? In the immortal words of Clint Eastwood with one of the Dirty Harry movies, a man's got to know his limitations. My limitations are I'm not going to practice law on my own. I am ill prepared to do that. Give Brad a call today. He's here to help you. If you've been in an auto accident, workers' compensation, you've got been hurt on the job, slip and fall, any of those types of things with personal injury, they are here to help you, and it's absolutely free to give them a call today at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. Online, BradfordPeltonLaw.com. Brad, it's always a pleasure having you here, and look forward to next week. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you, sir, and the same to you, and the same to all of your listeners.